Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, John Cena was nude on the Oscars last night.
And Tony Kornheiser, I saw it. It's like looking in a mirror. I mean, I'm ripped like that, right? Everybody says
What
that.
do you got? You got one of those reverse amusement park mirrors. Remember those mirrors we would go in the amusement parks and they would distort? Yeah. You stand right there.
Distorted mirrors. Yeah, that's what I have in my house. I got one that's labeled Cena, okay? And I stand in front of it, and that's how I look.
I mean,
that's gutsy to get out in front of that crowd like that. That's pretty impressive. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, big-name running backs are on the move. LSU scraps with South Carolina, and Rudy Gobert gets a big fine. But we begin today with NFL quarterback news. Just a few hours ago, Kirk Cousins went to Atlanta on a 4-year deal. Russell Wilson will sign for 1 year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baker Mayfield will stay in Tampa Bay on a 3-year pact, and Mac Jones will be traded to Jacksonville from New England for a 6th-round pick. Wilbon, which move is most intriguing to you?
Russell Wilson going to the Steelers. I told you this last week. I was screaming all week for this to happen. I don't think that Russell Wilson is going to return to form from 2013 or whenever he was in Super Bowls back-to-back. I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm not saying he has that much left. But I think he has enough left to help Pittsburgh, where they have a team and a really tough, strong coach who can take the pressure off Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can't go to the Steelers, where they have a history since the 1970s of being a tough, strong team, and be the diva that he's perhaps been somewhere else. And that's not working. It's not Seattle. It's not Denver. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, Tony. And so I think Russell Wilson can go there. He can work with the new offensive coordinator who excels in some of the things that work for Russell Wilson, including play action passing and all these subtle things. But there's some big picture things that I think will help Russell Wilson just sort of slowly blend into a real strong clubhouse, and he can help them. Kirk Cousins, he's an upgrade, I guess, if he's healthy, coming off a serious injury in Atlanta. And, all that's fine. Russell Wilson intrigues me. We'll see if I'm right. I think he's got enough left to help them.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is the big hole in this because he's still probably just about a top 10 quarterback. Atlanta is in a very weak division. Atlanta got nothing from quarterback last year, nothing at all. So I think Kirk Cousins actually makes them a Super Bowl contender. I'll go that far. You and I disagree on Russell Wilson. I don't think he's got anything left at all. You like to say, and I understand the justification, that Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton were bad coaches and they hurt Russell Wilson. I think the tip on Russell Wilson was that Seattle got rid of him when they did. But Kenny Pickett was nothing last year. Is Russell Wilson better than Kenny Pickett? Yes.
Yes.
Their best quarterback was Mason Rudolph. Is Russell Wilson better than Mason Rudolph? Yes. Will he be helped by the fact that there's stability in Pittsburgh? Yes. He needs to rehabilitate his reputation, and he can do it. It's interesting to me, Russell Wilson this year is in the position Baker Mayfield was in last year. On a 1-year deal, everybody sort of doubted him, wondered what was going on. He threw 28 touchdown passes, including 6 in 2 playoff games, and won a playoff game. His reward for that is 3-year contract, and Mike Evans comes back. So this can happen to Russell Wilson. He could have a great year.
By the way,
we just disagree on how much is left. We disagree.
By the way, Tony, Baker Mayfield is being slurped to the heavens for throwing 28 touchdown passes. Tell me exactly how many Russell Wilson threw last year for a coach who didn't want him.
24.
28.
I believe it was 24. I think 24.
Okay.
He threw 28.
Right. 24 and 8 picks. I mean, come on now. I mean, let's not,
had that one.
People have these narratives. It doesn't mean they're worth a damn, but they advance them anyway. We have many more free agent moves headlined by a
26 in my year. The magic in my year. 26
okay, cool. So he's only 2 behind Hall of Fame bound Baker Mayfield. Just saying.
Well, he's not Hall of Fame bound. He had a good year. Russell Wilson is in that position now.
You don't recognize sarcasm anymore? Mr. Baker Mayfield, his commercials are still the best thing about his career. Now, more moves. Headlined by a run on running backs. Saquon Barkley will leave the Giants and go to Philly in the same division. Hated rivals DeAndre Swift leaves those Eagles where he's no longer needed to go to my Bears. Josh Jacobs leaves the Raiders for the Packers. And Tony Pollard leaves the Cowboys for the Titans. Tony, has a running back movement stood out to you so far, or is it something else?
Well, I thought Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants was the headline. Like you, I was surprised he went inside the division. That's like a Bryce Harper move. But he made a lot of money, and he's right at his prime. I mean, yes. I'm waiting to find out what Derrick Henry does, and the only reason I have Henry slotted one below Barkley is that he's an older player. We don't know what he has left, but he's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. And he's got to leave Tennessee because Tony Pollard just went to Tennessee and he didn't go there to be a backup. And Mike, of all the names you mentioned, I am surprised by Tony Pollard doing that. Leaving Dallas, a playoff team, a potential Super Bowl team, to go to a place that's going the other way. And my only takeaway was running backs have been so devalued in recent years that they're interested in getting as much money as they can and not so much where they play. Because I never expected you leave Dallas for Tennessee. I didn't expect that.
Well, Tony, so I'm waiting for Derrick Henry. And I don't have him slotted below anybody, even though I hear you about the age. I know exactly why you're saying that. I hear you.
Yeah.
But if you put him in one of the places that is interesting, rumored that he might go is Baltimore. Oh, my God. You put Derrick Henry back there with Lamar Jackson, let them have a couple of years together, and that could make the difference. That may enable them to, I don't know, overtake Kansas City, which is going to be really hard. And by the way, if we're talking about moves, there's a certain Chris Jones who winds up staying in Kansas City, and they did the right thing because he is the second most valuable player, in my way of thinking, on that team. 3-time Super Bowl winners now. So, Tony, but man, if Derrick Henry winds up in Baltimore, and, Tony, you're right about the running backs. They know they got to get paid because people aren't interested in their services. Let's see if their coaches stop being more interested in their systems than they are using the personnel they have to win football games. Let's see if that happens. We got a long way between now and September to figure that out. Let's move to a wild weekend now in college women's basketball. Unbeaten South Carolina beat Tennessee at the buzzer of Saturday's SEC tournament semifinal, then beat LSU yesterday in a game that featured that scuffle and a slew of ejections. Over in the Pac-12, USC beat favorite Stanford for the tournament championship, and Caitlin Clark's Iowa team needed OT to beat Nebraska for the Big Ten title. Tony, which result was most significant to you?
So I want to draw a line of distinction here because, as you know, I watched all three of these games. But I want to draw a line of distinction between what was most significant to me and what the headline was. The headline was the brawl, with 2 minutes to go in South Carolina and LSU. I don't know that that result was the most significant because South Carolina is the number one team in the country. They were expected to win, and they won that game. If I have to deal with most significant, I would say Iowa, coming back from 13 down against Nebraska and winning that game, because Caitlin Clark did nothing in the first half. She had 4 points, and she was 0 for 9 from 3. She had 30 in the second half and the overtime. 30, and I think I'm correct in this, either scored or assisted on every basket in the overtime. That's going to get Iowa to a number one seeding because Ohio State, which I believe had won the Big Ten, lost 2 games in a row. USC is so closely behind Iowa in my mind in terms of significance because they upset Stanford. They're going to get a number one seeding as well, and they did it even though Juju Watkins had no game. She had 2 baskets and 6 turnovers, I believe.
Stanford
and at times, Stanford put 4 people on her. They put 4 people on her. So, but the big headline, and I'll leave some of it to you, the big headline was the fight at the end of that game.
The big headline and the most entertaining game, the greatest theater, was South Carolina LSU, as it should be. You got a reigning national champion and a champion once or twice removed. Come on now. That's the game. And Caitlin Clark is great because she's always great. You and I were on the phone. I loved watching that. And the Big Ten games I've watched all year with Caitlin Clark. And, Tony, to be fair now, Stanford and USC should be number one seeds. They're both going to be number one seeds. So there was no upset there. Those are equals. Those are equals. There's no telling what would happen if they played each other in a semifinal or final in the national championship. But South Carolina LSU was a game. And as Dawn Staley said accurately, these passions run deep and they can spill over. You don't want them spilling over to where somebody's brother is jumping over the top rail like WWE on the court and taking away handcuffs. You don't want that. But I thought Dawn Staley was great where she just basically said in live time, okay, I'm sorry this happened. I hate to see that happen. These two teams are rivals, though, Tony. I want to see them again. Whether it's the national semifinal or an NCAA final championship game, sorry, Caitlin Clark, Mr. Big Ten here, I want to see South Carolina LSU go at it once more. That was the show.
There's a
Men's
famous
college
phrase
basketball
of our
can't
childhood.
touch that now. Can't touch it.
There's a famous phrase in our childhood, and it ended with plain don't like each other. And that's right. LSU and South Carolina.
That's it.
And you have to sit that player out for one game because she decked the player from LSU.
That's right.
She's got to sit out 1 year. Let's take a break. Coming up, did Rudy Gobert deserve a $100,000 fine?
And the Wild take a risk on a rule that nobody on earth knows. And maybe 3 people. Nobody knows. Players don't know. Coaches don't know.
Now, I thought LSU started that. Maybe it doesn't matter in hindsight, but I thought there was a push from LSU to South Carolina. Time to find out what's making the mob throb. That's a good line.
Mail time.
Let me get the first one here. Go to my glasses. Was Rudy Gobert's $100,000 fine for making a money gesture at the refs too high, too little, or just right?
Tony, it's a big fine. I mean, we see other things that aren't fined as aggressively because, I don't know, usually there's some rule against going too far. But Rudy Gobert gives that money sign to Scott Foster. He's saying, which he even admits, you got paid. You took a payoff to make that call. Okay. So we don't believe that. Rudy Gobert doesn't even believe that. And I don't believe that. And people can hate Scott Foster if they want. And Scott Foster, I don't believe that. But, Tony, here's the problem with the league fining him 100 or more or games or whatever. Leagues, all of them, including the NBA, are in bed with gambling now. They've embraced it. They've said, the leagues have said, so don't get on Rudy Gobert for doing this. If the league's going to do it, and, you know, people take these things for what they're worth when you say that about a referee, which is nothing. Players, fans, coaches privately off the record, everybody says this stuff. I don't find anyone who believes it, even though the NBA has had, you know, an investigation or two. I don't believe it. I think it's probably about right, but don't go crazy.
2 words. Tim Donaghy. 2 words. It happened in the NBA. It actually happened in the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I believe Adam Silver has a crisis right now. Rudy Gobert is not an insignificant player. He's not insignificant. Right. Here are his quotes afterwards. I'll bite the bullet again. I'll be the bad guy. I'll take the fine, but I think it's hurting our game. I know the betting and all that is becoming bigger and bigger, but it shouldn't feel this way. Referees make mistakes too, but sometimes I think it's more than mistakes. He's saying the guy's taking money, Mike. There's an integrity to the game. And you can say he's joking. You can say he doesn't believe it. But he's not saying it. And Adam Silver has this in the closet with Tim Donaghy. So you got to go out there and you got to make sure the public doesn't think that this is real. I'm sorry. I think this is a big deal. In hindsight, I'm not sure the fine was enough.
Nailed this.
I'm not sure.
You go bigger. You go bigger than 100. I will say this to you, Tony. I was with Minnesota. I was with Minnesota last night in Los Angeles. They are the latest small market team. This used to hurt Sacramento. They're the latest small market team that feels, hey, stop. Look at the numbers that go in favor of Los Angeles and New York when we play against these teams. Stop it. And I got to tell you something. I'm from a big city and live in only big cities. I hear them. I know I'm not saying there's anything intentional. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I hear these guys and they're being upset.
Adam Silver's got to get out in front of this. Adam Silver's got to understand this is a big deal. Can't have players say this. Let's move on. Many Wild players didn't know that they could have lost a point when Coach John Hines pulled the goalie in OT. Did you?
Tony, hell no. I never heard of it until today when Uber producer Matthew Kelleher, who grew up, of course, playing hockey, I forgot to ask Matt if he already knew this, But I had zero idea there's a rule in the NHL that if you pull your goaltender and you get scored on an OT, you lose the 1 point that you've gotten for the tie. This is insane. You discourage anybody from being aggressive. And that's what happened or could have happened, and they wound up winning the game. But no, I didn't realize there's a risk of losing the point. Well, what? Why? What are you doing?
All right, so I'm going to join the club. I had never heard of this either. I figured you were guaranteed a point because of the 60 minutes that you went and tied the game. So this changes a lot of things. This makes it like the 2-point conversion in the NFL. It's risky. Now, what the coach said was, hey, we need 2. We're trying to climb the ladder and get into the playoffs here. One isn't good enough.
We're trying.
So he took the risks. So I wonder what the analytics are on taking the risk. And I mention analytics because I know you hate it, but I didn't know, as you didn't know, that there was this rule. I will say I like the fact that he went for it. I like it very much. I'm glad he made it. But the fact that he could lose the point is stunning to me.
Do you want him penalized? Do you want him penalized for going for it? Come on now.
No, but he got the job in late November. He wants to keep the job, make the playoffs. Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Yankees get some concerning news about Garrett Cole.
And can a new putter really put Scotty Scheffler on another level? Man, you're tough on Rudy Gobert.
Seems to.
You're tough on the big Frenchman.
Well, he said this guy's on the take, Mike. And that league has that history. Football, baseball may not have that history. Happy time, people. Happy 39th birthday, Greg Olsen. The 3-time Pro Bowl tight end became Fox's #1 analyst after Troy Aikman left for Monday Night Football. Olsen played in the Super Bowl in 2016 with Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, but hasn't yet had a chance to broadcast a Super Bowl. This coming season, Olsen will probably be replaced in the #1 Fox chair by Tom Brady, who agreed to a 10-year, $375 million contract to call games at Fox. Olsen has been very complimentary publicly of Fox for giving him the opportunity to go into broadcasting, and most people have been complimentary of Olsen's work in the booth. And of course, nobody knows if Brady will enjoy broadcasting, let alone be good at it.
I know Brady's going to be great at it. He's going to be great. That's what he does. Now, Olsen, I was about to jump on you for talking about him in a Carolina uniform for a Super Bowl and not the Bears, but Olsen was drafted 3 months after the Bears made only their second Super Bowl in 2007. So he just missed it, was not out there catching passes from Rex Grossman is our quarterback. That did not happen.
But he missed. Happy anniversary, Joakim Noah. On this day 17 years ago, the then Florida Gators big man broke out into this impromptu dance after Florida won the SEC championship. Ultimately, the Gators won the national championship, becoming the last team to win the NCAAs back-to-back. Down the road, Noah played 13 seasons in the NBA, mostly with the Chicago Bulls, averaging 8.8 points and 9 rebounds for his career. But this dance feels like a career highlight for Noah, who knows a thing or two about winning, as his father is tennis great Yannick Noah. At the end of the dance, you see Bill Raftery and Vern Lundquist are both impressed, and you can hear Lundquist say in appreciation, "Ladies and gentlemen, Joakim Noah. That was pretty good," unquote.
Love Noah. Love him. Noah was the heart and soul of those Bulls teams. Derrick Rose was the engine. If Derrick Rose doesn't suffer the catastrophic knee injuries, the Chicago Bulls have at least one championship not authored by Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, Scottie Pippen, Rodman Grant. But Derrick Rose couldn't deliver beyond that because of health. But he and Noah, a great tag team. Noah was Defensive Player of the Year once.
Yes, one time. Happy trails, Malcolm Butler. The hero of Super Bowl 49 is retired. Butler made the most famous interception of all time, picking off Russell Wilson at the goal line to preserve New England's Super Bowl victory. Butler, 34, said he was satisfied with his football career, wants to write a book about his life, and may try stand-up comedy. Joining Butler in retirement, Eagles defensive tackle Fletcher Cox. Cox, 33, started 182 of 188 games in Philadelphia, was a Pro Bowler 6 straight seasons, and a member of the most recent NFL All-Decade team. With the retirement of Cox and Jason Kelce, the Eagles have lost 2 stalwarts.
Tony, you wanted to go into stand-up at one point. You going to give Malcolm Butler some pointers on what he should do if he decides to go that route?
I would tell him to go do PTI instead. It's easier. A couple of NFL free agency omissions. Gardner Minshew headed to the Raiders, and pass rusher Leonard Floyd going to the 49ers. Let's go to the big finishes quickly as we're running out of time. Yankee ace Garrett Cole set to have MRI in his right elbow. Uh-oh.
Jeff Passan reporting he's had difficulty bouncing back between spring starts. Scotty Scheffler won Bay Hill by 5 strokes. Is that significant?
Yeah, because he putted well with that new mallet putter that Rory told him to get. U.S. women beat Brazil to win the Gold Cup. Your thoughts?
I missed it. It was on at a terrible time, late at night in the West Coast, the time the Kornheiser hates. I hated it. Come on now, you got to do better than that for a showcase game. Rocket Center, Alperen Sengun had to be wheeled off the court yesterday. Okay, you're the new Sengun expert. Your thoughts?
I just heard of him the other day. Now he's gone? What? Bears now plan to stay in Chicago, build a dome next to Soldier Field. Makes you happy?
Yeah, except the dome. We don't want a dome. I don't want that softness. Get that dome out of here. Everything
We're out of
else,
time.
yes.
Try to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Globon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. No dome.
Bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon. What has been the most impactful NFL free agency move thus far?
The signing by the champion Kansas City Chiefs of Chris Jones, the second most valuable player on that team, the most important player in the Super Bowl because the vaunted offense with Hall of Fame bound number 15, they couldn't score in regulation against the 49ers. They needed a muffed punt to score. Chris Jones, as far as I'm concerned, should have been the MVP of that because he was so disruptive of the passing game, particularly with certain key rushes, even when we didn't record a sack. He was the critical figure on the field to me, Tony, against San Francisco. You got to keep Chris Jones. Last year, they did a stopgap. They kept him for a year. Fine. Pay Chris Jones. And I know these things don't last forever, and there becomes dead cap money, and people get cut. And it's, sign Chris Jones. The Chiefs did. That's the move.
Yeah, no, I agree with that on Chris Jones. I think that on the offensive side, they have 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers in Mahomes and Kelsey. So, I mean, I think you have to include the 3 of them. They're very important. I would say that the most important and impactful move so far is one that just happened a few hours ago. That was Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. I think Kirk Cousins is right around a top 10 quarterback, not top 5, but a top 10 quarterback. Atlanta is in a weak division. It's a very winnable division. They got nothing out of quarterback last year. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins can actually make them a Super Bowl team. I think that Saquon Barkley going in division from the Giants to the Eagles, I think that's something that people are going to watch all year long. And there's one other one that hasn't happened yet, and it's Derrick Henry. And I'm not saying Derrick Henry has 5 years left, but if Derrick Henry has 1 year left and gets on the right good team, he makes them a great team. So I'm interested in where he goes. Yeah, they can win the Super Bowl if he lands there. Yeah,
yes.
Sure.
So all those are big moves. And the Saquon move, I think that helps Philadelphia not get so pass heavy and have just a 1-2 tag team punch that maybe that team was lacking. I wonder if the Giants are going to live to regret this. But yes, all those are big moves. And Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh, I think, is a big move because I think he's got enough left in the tank to be in the structure of Pittsburgh, which to me, he needs some structure. I think that's a good move, too. We got plenty more to go. There'll be moves all night. That's it. We're done. Back to you.